Josh, you're welcome to join us. This is Smooth 19.1. It's a part of Smooth Breakfast with Kayode and Ayo Mairo Ese. And you are welcome to be a part of our conversation. This morning, we have very special guests joining us. Before we unveil who they are, let's give you how to be a part of the conversation. Real quick, you can reach out to us on WhatsApp. Number to get your messages to is 0809-444-0981. Also, you can send us messages on Twitter as well. We're at Smooth981FM with the hashtag Freshly Pressed 981, and we're streaming live on YouTube as well. That's youtube.com/smooth981FM.
All right, we have our special analyst with us. Thank you very much, Mr. C. Good morning, Mr. C.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Lagos.
Mr. C is at Mr. C with 5 E's on Twitter. And it's good to have Justin back. Good morning, Justin.
Morning, people.
Morning,
Good to
Justin.
be back.
Good to have you back.
Thank you, Ayo.
Okay, so let's go straight into today's story. How federal government will tackle population explosion, Buhari. Now, this statement is from the ongoing Nigerian Economic Summit going on in Abuja. And the report, it's a few things he's talked about. I'm starting with Justin. Justin, please, can you take us through this story?
It's a few things that he's talked about. You can narrow them down to even fewer things: population, corruption. So his president is basically saying that the future for us is dependent on how we're able to eliminate corruption and provide social amenities amongst the most vulnerable people in our communities. So several people mentioned in this article keep going back to this magic number of Nigeria's population is expected to hit 400 million by the year 2050.
Yeah.
I don't know where that number came from, but everybody
I
seems
think
to
from the
be
United
parroting it.
Nations. Yeah.
Well, this is another situation of America will know. If we haven't done the due diligence of conducting a properly done population census in recent years, I don't know how we are touting numbers that I don't know how the United Nations got the 400 million projection number. So I've had this conversation with someone before. There was a baseline number based on the very not perfect census that was done years ago.
Yeah.
And what they just do every year is they
Multiply.
multiply it by a factor and increase it, and then that's what is used to do the projection. I don't think any serious person does economic projection or planning by that method. So while I agree that we need to watch the population, before you can actually plan for population growth in any meaningful way, you need to know the numbers. It's always about the numbers. So I wish I were at the NESG, the Economic Summit Group conference happening in Abuja. I would have had a couple of contributions to make. But from where I sit, I think that we should take the issue of our numbers more seriously if we are actually going to make any committed plan that will work in the future.
What do you have to say about his statement about local strategy to address the issue? Because I know the headline reads that how they will tackle population explosion, but we haven't really touched on what he said they were going to do to tackle population explosion.
Truth be told, there are no specifics in it. The statement you're referencing is where he said that it's only a Nigerian-based, a tailor-made solution, and I do agree with that. You know, we over the years we had this penchant of importing policies from God knows where and just thinking it's a one-size-fits-all. So I agree with the sentiment that we need to tailor our solutions to our peculiar issues, right? We are a peculiar people, and there are certain things that we must take into cognizance when we are planning. And I think that's what the president was harping on when he made that particular statement. Now, there is nothing here, even though there's a quote from Mr. Aso Ighodalo, who's the chairman of the NESG, who said the summit will focus on enhancing private sector growth and productivity and inclusive growth planning. But they haven't got into it. These are mainly talking points. There are no specifics that are really in this article.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
thank
as
you
usual,
very much. All right. Thank you. Let's go on to our next story. Mr. C, I'll come to you for this. And interesting headline, and I'm glad we're talking about this because a few weeks we touched on Amnesty for Bandits. And today we're looking at 2 months afterwards. Sokoto, Zamfara, Katsina, they count the gains of Amnesty. So the conversation on that day was around should we even be negotiating with terrorists or not. And I remember that we talked about the fact that sometimes we need to make certain decisions that are not popular so that we can have peace in the nation. Well, these states in the north have come out to state some of the gains, according to them, of them actually granting amnesty to some of these terrorists. Can you please take us through these stories from the Thisday newspaper?
Okay, so the story states that Sokoto, Zamfara, and Katsina are counting the gains of the amnesty they granted bandits 2 months after. And what they've suggested is that the level of crime in those states has reduced,
Yeah.
and that they believe that going forward, the security situation in those states will be a lot better. That's a general outline. Now, there are a few issues. Now, Zamfara specifically, the government plans now to integrate 18,000 youths under a social intervention program and pay them 20,000 naira each a month. Now that comes to about 360 million each month. Where is Zamfara state government getting this money from? Because Zamfara state is not known to be one of the states with a high internal generated revenue. And he's also planning to build a Ruga settlement in each senatorial zone. A few questions arise. One, these line expenditures, were they captured in the budget?
Okay.
So if they were not captured in the budget, where is this money coming from specifically? And then this is a Zamfara state that is still dealing with unpaid salaries to civil servants. They're still dealing with pension, this on. And the question then arises, why can't you enforce your laws? We had numerous accounts of governors driving into the bush to talk to bandits, and you're paying them to maintain the peace. Now, another question that arises quickly is, when this current amount paid to them runs out, what happens? Because clearly you've shown that you lack the ability or the capacity to deal with them within the provisions of the law. And it spreads across the other states, and it is a worrying sign that the insecurity situation plaguing the nation isn't going away anytime soon. And I find it disturbing that our security chiefs supposedly keyed into this. Because at a moment like this, you have to show strength. You cannot let bandits believe that they're bigger than the Nigerian state. I'm happy that the Kaduna state government hasn't bought into this nonsense yet, and that they say they have their own plan to deal with the high level of insecurity in Kaduna state. And this should be a wake-up call for the security agencies. The state is always bigger than any individual or group of individuals. And the state governments are not giving us the full and true account of what is being spent to buy this peace.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Singh.
We have messages coming in already. This one for Kunle Ajani from Isolo says, our population are liability. Let somebody tell the Kanu monarch that we never reach a third of China's population, I beg. And if we fear, make we consult China on the president's declaration of that wealth of Nigeria is concentrated on a few. Mr. President, that includes you, sir.
I thank you. So Kunle must have certainly read the full report. It would be good for you if you could to read the report in the newspaper, as it details some of the other comments that Mr. President made in his speech yesterday. But let's move on to our next story here from the Punch newspaper. Governors confirm crisis in APC, states threaten showdown. This is from the Punch newspaper. Justin, state chairman of the All Progressives Congress, are threatening a showdown with the national leadership of the party over recent appointments at the federal and state levels. So there have been conversations around, hushed conversations, unconfirmed reports around, do we have internal party conflict in the APC? What's going on? And in the past few days, we've had some, stalwarts of the party come out to say, all is well, no cause for alarm, everything is going on well. But some state chairmen have now come out to say, actually, all is not well. Please take us through this story.
Well, the children are fighting at the party over the cookie jar. That's exactly what's going on.
Okay.
So, in their own words, all is not well. People are not getting juicy appointments. So, the summary of this story is that there is dissent within the party because the Association of State Party Chairmen is fighting with the National Working Committee. They had given the National Working Committee an ultimatum to address these concerns. And what are these concerns? failure to secure appointments for party loyalists and fill vacant leadership positions in the party. One state where the report particularly pointed out was Ogun State, where they say that 2 loyalists of ex-governor Ibikolo Amosu, we will remember that Ibikolo Amosu was at loggerheads. He actually skipped out of the APC, moved to another party.
Drama.
There was serious drama around him, exactly. And apparently they say 2 loyalists of his have been given fatal appointments. Now, first of all, in general principle, this is one of the symptoms of the larger issue which we have, which is where people have taken politics as a career, as a means of livelihood. Public service, right, is seen as a meal ticket. That's what this fight is about. They are not giving us the juicy appointment. You're not rewarding the people who worked for the party with appointments. It's typically meant to be a call to service, right?
Yes.
So I don't know why there's a fight over it if you people weren't looking at the filthy lucre that you were going to get. But hey, this is the template that the political space has adopted in the country, and that's what's playing out here. I wish them well. I hope it doesn't result in
I was going to ask.
violence.
Yes, I was going to ask Justin, what's the implication of internal party politics for the ruling party on one, perhaps the performance of principal actors in the party? So I mean the president, the vice president, governors. What are the implications of this?
Well, it's the regular horse trading that goes on. I don't know that it has any implications outside of what we are typically used to seeing. So if this drags on, the closer you get to election year, what you then see is a mass migration, and the critical mass of people who used to be APC becomes another acronym, whatever that acronym is.
Do you think it would affect voter confidence in the party if they have continuous?
Since when did that matter?
The reason I'm asking is because the reason why this would be news in other countries is because, for instance, if the Labour Party or the Conservative or Democrats or are having issues within the parties, their members are concerned and saying, if you can't get your acts together, then why should we trust the country
to steer the country forward?
So that's how I'm asking, does this have an effect on the way people vote or on how Nigerians view parties and leaders?
Sadly,
no, it doesn't.
It doesn't. All right. Thank you very much. So we don't really want to know about the
All
right. Let's go on to the Guardian newspaper for this next story. But before then, we have some comments on WhatsApp. Don't forget, please keep them coming in. WhatsApp, Twitter, and of course on YouTube as well.
This one from Chukwuma Chukwuma says, good morning, guys. So the government would increase and collect money from me as tax to pay some few miscreants because the law, they are not law abiding. Maybe we should all, no, we can't take that message, but thank you very much for this one here from Dipo from Ikeja says, it's rather unfortunate that the politicians are now benefiting from the insecurity situations in the country instead of fighting it headlong. Indirectly, they're encouraging banditry.
All right, thank you very much. So still that debate as to should we grant amnesty, should we not even go down that road at all. Shagun says our population never reached China on Abi, but China landmass is 10 times bigger than Nigeria. Fact is, we need to control our population growth. Thank you, Shagun, for your comments. Let's go on to this very notorious, well, I use the word notorious because it's been, I'd rather use that than popular. Headline, Outrage assets for grades, scandal rocks UNILAG. I don't think it's rocking just the University of Lagos. I believe that universities in Nigeria generally will begin to feel the ripples of this earthquake. Nigerian universities caught global attention yesterday, but this was not because of academic breakthroughs that earned them some laurels. Rather, it was because of the escapades of randy lecturers. This is how The Guardian reports it. And it's following a release by BBC African Eye of a video allegedly showing academics propositioning undercover female reporters. The reporter in charge was Kiki Modi, who is a journalist, and she was able to speak to two lecturers, Dr. Boniface and another, I think was another, Dr. Boniface Ibenegu was the primary person that was targeted in this particular video. But Mr. C, can you take us through the story?
Okay, so we're back to this shameful and sad incident of lecturers harassing female students for sexual favors in exchange for marks. Now, a quick recap. Just last year, December 2018 to be precise, a professor from the Obafemi Awolowo University was actually jailed for this. He is currently in prison serving a 2-year jail term. Now, sadly, we're here again, and this is just one example of what is going on all over Nigeria. Now, in this story, the lecturer was approached by a BBC undercover reporter who pretended to be a 17-year-old student seeking to gain admission. And then he's supposedly a pastor and a former sub-dean in the university. And
he actually led her to Christ in the video.
Yeah.
And then, Mr. C, dive into this. I mean, what's in the
No,
video?
the details.
Oh my God.
Okay, so in the video, she went to his office twice, and the first time he pretended to be all normal. The second time he started talking about some cold room and what they do there. And funny enough, he prayed for her, then started making all these very wonderful suggestions to the poor lady, and even attempted to physically demonstrate what goes on in this cold room. Now, thankfully, since the video came out, the university has come out, suspended him immediately. His church has said they don't understand what he's on about. He doesn't represent the church, its brand, or its values. And he's also been asked to step down from all ministerial appointments. And then university has gone further to shut down this cold room. Now, it's important to note that this investigation also covered the University of Ghana. I know there are 2 lecturers were caught, and one of them is actually suing the BBC for entrapment. Now, it points to a societal problem where people believe they can do just about anything and get away with it. You're a university don. You're put in a position of authority over the students, not just to teach them what they need to know, but also to guide them.
Character and learning.
When you abuse that position of trust, then you're not fit to continue to occupy that position.
All right, let's talk about, sorry to cut you, let's talk about abuse of power generally, because this points to a bigger issue. Yes, it's an investigation done in the university, but a number of people, I mean, if you read comments following this expose, you'd have people talk about abuse in the workplace, talk about abuse, with people in leadership who are still holding positions of leadership. How do we protect vulnerable people in Nigeria, particularly because, again, back to our culture where a big man or someone who's older is revered, you cannot speak, and there's a culture of silence. This speaks to a larger problem. It's not just in the universities.
Let me take one for the team here. This is about toxic masculinity. It's about men gone haywire, right? We are, as a gender collective, we are behaving badly. Humans generally are problematic, but trust me, as a member of the male gender, I get embarrassed by the kind of shenanigans we get up to. Abuse of power is what we're talking about, and it is typically men on the perpetrating side of things. Further down on our lineup of headlines that we're going to look at, there's a story of a governor who has issued an order that if anybody gets in the way of his convoy, if anybody gets in the way of his convoy, they should be shot. Our attitude to power is scary. You put someone in a position of authority and they start to play God. That's what played out on campus. That's what's playing out in Abuja with those people in Abuja. We all know who I'm talking about. It's all over the place.
Okay, Justin.
How about consequences? Because we talk about
the imperative of consequence is dead.
Yeah, so wait, hold on. How about consequences? The reason why, men like Dr. Boniface and others who do this so brazenly and tell you that it's part of life, or are we not too consenting adults, is because it's almost as
he's going to get away with it.
Yeah, they're going to get away with it.
Yeah. So the thing is, back to the culture of silence, we should begin to embrace the good parts of the Me Too movement. More and more people, as these things happen to them, should come out and speak out against these things. It is only then that when there are repeated cases of people being called out and being punished appropriately, that we will start to see a decline in reports like this. So it's important that people who've gone through this sort of experience should come out and speak out now, so that more people like Dr. Boniface will be called out, will be caught, and will be prosecuted.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Mr.
A lot of
C.
things I'd like to say about that, but because of our time, and that's that if they come out to speak, how about the shaming? How about if nothing is being done? We know
consequences
it.
that fall
We know it. Yes, we know a case that's ongoing with a religious leader, and we know the attack on the family of the person. We know the attack on the person themselves. So again, it's about protecting the survivor, not making them the victim in this case, or shaming them into silence. But let's go on to take some messages from you.
This one, Chika from Marina says, the expectation is a huge one. You're in a school and lecturers want sex or they'll fail you. That you graduate sex before they hire you. You get a job, bosses want sex, so you'll be promoted or not get fired. You are an actress, a producer. Before giving your role, it's unfortunate Dr. Boniface is not sacrificial lamb in this case, but I can proudly say there are still so many Randy lecturers in UNILAG because I graduated from that university, and this is Chika Gina from Marina. All right, let's quickly get into the other stories. We see tons of messages, and we'll try and get to them as soon as we can.
Yeah.
But let's quickly take the headline for this one from the Punch newspaper. It comes to you, Justin. FEC okay 700 billion naira National Assembly increase in 2020 budget.
Yeah, that's it. So they've added 100 billion naira to the budget for themselves. And someone once said that even if people in power who are corrupt want to steal money, they will create the money even if the money doesn't exist and then steal it. So in order to accommodate this increase, guess what they did? They simply increased the budget, the crude oil benchmark of the budget by 2 naira, creating headroom to accommodate the 700 billion. That's
So it comes from
the article doesn't tell us
$55 per
what.
barrel to
57.
57.
Yes.
Okay.
Hallelujah, hip hop parade. That's the end of that story.
All right, thank you.
We see messages.
A number of messages around the sector grade. I have this one from Mama Safety in Festac. I want to thank the BBC for the expose. I want to urge us all to always weigh the pros and cons of any action before you do anything. It costs a lot to be an associate professor and you lose it for a few minutes of pleasure. We also have comments from Dr. I, who says the hue and cry about the sector grades is a bit delusional. A Nigerian saying that they were unaware of sexual harassment in schools, in the workplace, or in IDP camps or police stations. Has anyone in the studio, or is anyone in the studio ready to openly report sexual predators in their office or mosques or homes? Rather, feigning righteous indignation, let's be brutally honest about ourselves in Nigeria. First step, stop shielding your friends or colleagues because of religion, class, or political affiliations.
Okay, real quick, let's head on to our next story. This one here, we've talked about this, highlighted this earlier from the story that we mentioned. It comes to you, Mr. C. From Premium Times, anyone who blocks my convoy should be shot. It comes from the Nigerian governor. And like I mentioned, Justin highlighted this from our previous conversation. What are your thoughts about this?
This is extremely shocking. That a governor who's elected by the citizens of his state can openly say something like this. Now, for the benefit of our listeners, he had gone to his hometown and he was returning to the state capital. Along the way, there were some mourners who were in some night procession, a wake keep.
Yep.
And according the governor's account suggests that they blocked his convoy or delayed his convoy. And he was very upset about that. And he claims that in the process, a rifle belonging to one of the soldiers attached to his convoy went missing. Subsequently, he's now restricted wake keeps to end at 10 p.m. in the state. And if you have to go beyond that, you need permission. But beyond the story, this is another example of executive impunity. How does an elected public official order his troops to open fire on people? Now, I'm going to advise,
even if they are unarmed.
I'm going to advise the security details that work with him. Any such order will not only be illegal, they will be prosecuted for murder. Yes, the governor has immunity, but there must be a limit to what he does or says. You cannot instruct.
Not in our constitution, though. He has
Mr. Z,
immunity.
No.
He has immunity, but he cannot order his security details to open fire on people, whether they're armed or not.
But he just did. So what would be?
It's illegal, Ayo. The fact that he said it.
It is illegal, and I hear you when you say to them, oh, you will be prosecuted.
Yes.
But you know what? Reality check. No, they won't be. There's a case in point.
Okay.
Fayemi's wife, BC Fayemi,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's at the tail end of this story, and I remember the videos that circulated from that
We
incident.
talked about it here.
Here at Fresh Press, they were passing through a university. Students happened to be protesting
Okay.
at the time, so there was an intersection between the students' protest and her passing. Not that she had anything to do with it.
Mhm.
Of course, her convoy was affected. Her security detail came down, opened fire. I think 2 students were killed.
Were killed, yes.
Nothing has come out.
No, but I'll tell you what. Yeah, that matter is still being investigated, and let's give the security agencies
The
the benefit of
the
the doubt. Now, what I'm saying is this: it is irresponsible for a governor or any public official to ask his security details
Of course it
to open
is.
fire. Now, the more important question is: was he elected to rule, or was he elected to serve them, or at best lead them?
Was he elected?
He was elected. He suggested.
Okay.
So, we need to hold our governors to high standards of accountability and responsibility. In any serious country, and I repeat it, Nigeria is not a serious country.
Right.
He would have been forced to resign.
I'm serious. I'm
Thank you
Nigerian.
very much, Mr. C.
All right, let
Let's
me
quickly
quickly-
get to our next stories.
So it's the governor of Ebonyi State. Someone just asked Ebonyi State, David Umahi, who was actually in the middle of this situation.
So this one is from the Vanguard newspaper. It talks about the proposed VAT, that's the VAT increase, and of course it talks that it will impact more on urban communities, wealthier population, as opposed to poor people. This is what the minister is saying.
Well, Minister, what's her name again? Aisha.
Zainab
Ahmed.
Zainab Ahmed. Yes. First of all, I don't know who she's referring to as urban wealthy. I don't believe that population segment exists. If she's talking about people like Ayo and Mr. C,
He says the man who's just come from a long holiday. But go ahead, please.
yes, in my village. So she's saying that she's trying to justify the proposed VAT increase, and she's gone on this highfalutin visionary statement of how we will make the country greater and better if we all pay up our taxes, and the poor people won't be affected because it's the urban wealthy who are going to be impacted by this. And I'd just like to remind the Honorable Minister that these same people you're talking about provide, for the most part, their own electricity, provide their own sanitation, provide their own water. And most of them who are in the working class still get taxes deducted at source. So telling me that increasing VAT, because if you look at Africa as a whole, our VAT rate is amongst the lowest, this is where you run into the danger of a single narrative, right? You're picking one metric and you're making an expansive statement. There are other metrics you need to look at. These other African countries you're drawing comparisons with. Do citizens spend out of pocket the kind of things Nigerians spend out of pocket to cater for that should ordinarily be funded by tax naira?
Okay.
Do you understand?
If you were to recommend, though, I mean, like she has already put it out there. And
You have a leaking basket, right?
So what are your
the revenues? We have huge leaks in the existing revenue base. Plug the leaks. Don't increase the amount of flow going into a leaking bucket without fixing the bucket first. It's common sense.
All right. Thank you very much, Justin. We'll take some final comments here before we go. Daniel says, this is coming from a governor elected by his people. I could not believe this. This is so bad. And then we have more comments on the scandal, sexual scandal. Ola from Lekki says, good morning all. This doesn't happen in schools alone. Anywhere there are men in authority or power, they always take advantage of women in return for a favor.
Right.
Workplace, schools, entertainment industry, NYSC camps, and even hospitals. That is gynecologists, doctors, and female patients, and so on. But thank you so much for your comments. Unfortunately, we couldn't go through every single comment, but we do appreciate them and we see them. Try as much as possible to take some more as the days progress. Thank you, Mr. C, for joining us this morning. Mr. C is at Mr. CEEE on Twitter. We had Justin Ijeh at Justin Ijeh on Twitter. Please follow us at Smooth981FM on Twitter. We're 10 years old this year, so great, exciting things happening. So please follow us.
I was having cake this morning.
Fun?
Are we having
You
cake?
should have
this
come
one?
yesterday.
Why
Had a
like
great
this?
I had a party
Sorry
yesterday.
about that. But we're still partying up in here at 8:15. It's the Grapevine 981. We have a special guest who's composed something special for Smooth FM at 10, in addition to other entertainment stories. Stay tuned. This is Smooth 98.1.
I want my own cake.